Story 1. Why do I need an account to use your website? It is just a one-time service. I called customer service because your website is not user-friendly and does not have the services I am inquiring about. Please stop asking me to hang up and go to the website. Story 2. Today I had to go to urgent care. I was the only one there. They could have just taken my ID and insurance and had a practitioner see me. However, the only way to claim an appointment, even by walk-in, was by scanning a QR code to register. Unfortunately, they were on the first floor of a large building, and mobile service wasn't great. I connected to their Wi-Fi, but their website was down. As a result, they had to print out paper forms that they had previously eliminated, and their internet was also down. Eventually, they had me write my information on the back of some receipt paper, and I was finally seen. However, they couldn't bill my insurance because their system was down. They knew they had to send my prescription to a pharmacy but couldn't do so because their system was still down. They called the closest pharmacy they could find for my prescription, but it turned out to be 30 minutes away due to their system issues. I asked for a paper prescription order and went to the pharmacy next door. They had to contact the pharmacy 30 minutes away to get the prescription transferred, but they couldn't verify the transfer because the system was still down at the urgent care. Story 3. Social media. The misinformation and overabundance of entertainment are dangerously addictive and detrimental to our well-being. While it has immense potential for positive impact, there are always some bad actors that spoil the experience. Story 4. The whole situation of applying for jobs online is frustrating. I only work in hospitality and low-wage jobs. I miss the days of walking around town with my resume printed out, where I could talk to a manager about a vacancy instead of wasting endless time filling out the same details for jobs and often completing silly questionnaires, only to hear nothing back at all. Story 5. This is a tough one for me. I love my prosthetic legs to some extent, but in order to use them properly and adjust settings, I need my phone and the app. There are definitely some benefits, but there would be a huge downside if my phone wasn't available. Also, in the case of a power outage, charging would require a generator along with potential software problems. If I were stuck on an island, I would be in trouble. I still have my very first prosthetic, a 3R60, which is purely mechanical, and I take it with me on every trip in case there are power issues. In a month, I'm going to Disney World and taking 3 knees with me. My everyday one, my water knee, and the 3R60 in case anything happens. I appreciate all the new technology, but it could lead to complications. My old legs could be adjusted with a 4mm Allen wrench. Even one of them that had a microprocessor could still be manually adjusted. Unfortunately, that is no longer the case. In 2012, I took my family on a Norwegian fjord cruise for a week, and the following week we spent time with our Norwegian family. My microprocessor knee malfunctioned on the very first day of the cruise. Thankfully, I had my mechanical knee as backup. It would have been easier with the other knee, but thankfully, I knew how to walk with the first one. Story 6. Cloud services can have limited storage in their free versions, which often leads to the need for payment. Less tech-savvy individuals may find this frustrating. I encountered an issue with iCloud, where the solution suggested was to transfer my files to my computer and clear the cloud storage. However, when I accessed my phone afterward, all my photos had disappeared. I never requested to delete them from my phone. Story 7. Automated bill payment can be challenging when you need to navigate through numerous pages just to update your credit card number or email. Story 8. Everyone seems to think that they need an app for every trivial task. Story 9. Touchscreen devices are everywhere. Many people with tremor disorders can barely use them or cannot use them at all. It is estimated that 10 million people in the United States have essential tremor alone. Story 10. Everything is becoming smart. Things have become so advanced that they have gone full circle and are now just useless. Story 11. My tumble dryer has a dozen presets for every kind of clothing, such as shirts, jeans, sportswear, silk, and more, but nothing on the machine or in the manual indicates the temperature, which is a universal symbol found on every item to guide drying methods. I also just spent a couple of hours setting up my new television. It used to be that you simply plugged it in, turned it on, and it worked. Story 12. Windows automatically saves all of my files to OneDrive. I consider myself somewhat tech-savvy, but I cannot figure out how to stop it from happening. I recently moved several MP4 files from a USB drive to my computer, and shortly after, my email stopped working because OneDrive storage was full due to the files I thought I saved locally. Story 13. Website cookies are designed to remember information to make your life easier, but they are also used to track your history, create a profile, and develop an accurate personal digital image of yourself, which can be sold to the highest bidder or government. Story 14. Car park applications. Please allow me to pay without downloading an app, creating an account, or trying to figure out what code is required for this car park. Additionally, I prefer not to share my location. Story 15. I don't know if it made my life harder, but search engines correcting your search when they think you misspelled a word is frustrating. The suggestions they provide are fine, but when they start deciding what you meant without your input and overriding the search results, it becomes an inconvenience. As someone who often looks up non-English words, it is annoying. Stop being helpful and let me search for what I am looking for. Story 16. Dating apps have complicated my life in many ways, causing me more anxiety than simply bumping into someone randomly at the store. Story 17. Applying for jobs online. You can no longer just show up and ask for an application. Everything is done online now. Most of these companies' application websites are poorly designed and lack security certificates, featuring user interfaces that appear to be created in basic text editors. Story 18. When you order a new product, such as a Roomba, and the owner's manual is online, they want you to connect it to your phone so you can turn it on from work or elsewhere. I just want to push a button and make it go. Y prefe papel manuals. Story 19. Many teachers like me are pressured to use their school's online learning management system, such as Canvas or Google Classroom. While there are a few benefits, overall it makes my job harder. Story 20. Online shopping is replacing traditional store shopping. I have several hobbies where the feel of materials is essential. I live in an area with high package theft, and I have ADHD, which makes it challenging to wait 3 to 7 days for supplies to arrive. I wish I could simply go to a store, check online for availability, and pick up what I need right away. Story 21. The PC is still freshly set up with games and apps that I just re-downloaded. I let OneDrive run, but it took it upon itself, with no prompts, to make copies of all my desktop icons and programs. After panicking over what I thought was a virus, I deleted the copies and completely removed OneDrive from my PC. Story 22. Two-factor authentication for everything. You are a free recipe website. You made me set up a password. Let me use it. No, I don't need a second form of identification to use this site. You have exactly 0 of my vital information. No money, no numbers, and everything you have that someone might want is freely given on my public profile. Email and banking apps? Sure, apply two-factor authentication there. But all recipes and YouTube? Why? Story 23. Mobile phones and the expectation of being available to people around the clock can be overwhelming. I often wish I had been born in a time when you would simply catch up with others when you saw them. I believe that this allowed friendships to endure even during periods of limited contact. Today, the constant pressure to maintain communication can be exhausting. Some of my friends understand, but many people will overlook you if they haven't heard from you in a few months. Story 24. Not being able to physically own a copy of a video game anymore is frustrating. Even if you have the disc, you still have to download the game. You are paying for the privilege to play the game, not for the actual game itself. Story 25. I do not want whatever your misinformation system suggests the information should be. I want the actual information. Please leave me alone. Story 26. Single-serve coffee machines, such as Keurig, are not more convenient, and the coffee quality is no better than regular drip coffee makers. They generate significantly more waste, and the reusable pods often produce poor coffee and are difficult to clean. My inexpensive programmable coffee maker is 10 times more convenient. I'm glad I made the switch back. Story 27. Internet-connected appliances. Why does a car, fridge, or washing machine need a software update? Story 28. Before the internet, I wasn't daily confronted with how many people seem to lack common sense in this timeline. Story 29. An espresso machine can save money at home compared to buying coffee at a store. However, there is the cleaning, grinding, and the challenge of achieving the perfect foamy top, along with the issue of consuming 5 cups a day. Took me 20 minutes to make a cup of espresso. Story 30. All these applications. No, I don't want to install a program on my phone for every little thing. Story 31. Code scanners for doors. We just got a new door system at work, and you have to scan your phone twice since there are 2 doors. At any given moment, one of the scanners doesn't work easily. I wish things were simpler and not over-engineered. Story 32. I've just had a massive disagreement with OneDrive. I didn't ask for my laptop and PC to be linked. I want them for different purposes. Please stop making me connect everything. Story 33. I have a smart lamp in my room. It asks me to download an app to register and log in so I can use it. Every time I leave my house, the lamp forgets my login, and I have to do it again using their app. Otherwise, the lamp blinks. If I don't follow these steps every day, I will not be able to turn on my light. The switch on my wall has become just for decoration. The whole process takes 2 minutes. I need to remove it for my sanity. Story 34. Touch screens. With a regular keyboard, I can type perfectly most of the time without looking at my hands. With a touchscreen keyboard, I make mistakes frequently, and it takes more time because I have to make corrections and look at my hands. Story 35. God forbid I don't have my phone with me all the time or I leave it in another room or downstairs. Story 36. I cannot stand answering machines or voicemail, especially when you call a business during operating hours. Story 37. Sites, applications, and everything these days are forcing you to connect everything to everyone. No, I do not want to sync my contacts to my social media. I cannot have my family and work know about my personal life. Please stop asking me to connect everything. Story 38. Applications for everything. I don't want to share my personal information with everyone, and I don't want to install random software on my phone. It might be convenient once everything is set up, but the main motivation is to maximize profits, such as through cheaper machines and user retention. Story 39. Applying to jobs online from the comfort of your home has transformed job seeking and hiring into a flood of resumes. Coupled with artificial intelligence job postings and screening, as well as applicants utilizing AI, the process has become nearly unmanageable. Story 40. Restaurant websites that never update or simply redirect you to Facebook require you to scroll through numerous photos or posts just to find a menu. Why continue paying for this website if you only use Facebook for everything and don't maintain it properly? Story 41. Any kind of artificial intelligence integration is helpful. I do not need to talk to a chatbot to solve my problems. It only fumbles forward until it connects me with a real person. Story 42. Self-checkout that uses a camera to identify items. I have used it twice at a gas station and once at an arena, as that was the only option available. Each time, the camera either misidentified an item or failed to recognize it. The arena even had the audacity to ask me for a tip. Story 43. Mobile phone frustrations. Every service wants you to download their mobile application and create an account. I just want to purchase the item and receive a receipt. I am not a mobile device user. I am a computer enthusiast. Switching to a mobile provider has its challenges. I am transitioning from AT&T to Spectrum, which is significantly cheaper. Even after the discount we receive for 3 years, we will still save over $100 a month. The process involves navigating through numerous hurdles, and these companies assume that everyone browses on their mobile devices and readily opens every application they have. I am a millennial who was online when only enthusiasts were connected. There was a time when being on a computer was mocked. Those were difficult times, but they were also more rewarding in some ways. Just let me click a button and enter a code. Story 44. Touch screens. There is not a single piece of technology in my life that I would want converted back to analog buttons, knobs, switches, and faders. I understand why they are standard in today's world, but I still groan when I have to use one on a printer, car, coffee machine, headphones, vending machine, or whatever. Analog controls are more tactile, easier to fix and tinker with, and you do not have to directly look at what you are touching to use it accurately. The frustration of accidentally pressing the wrong thing or wondering, did it register my touch, or is it just loading, is enough to put me in a mood. Story 45. Software updates simplify things excessively, making it difficult for technically literate individuals to navigate. One either needs to become even more knowledgeable or wait for an expert to create a third-party program or plugin to restore desired features. This frustration primarily pertains to Microsoft Windows. It often seems like unnecessary changes disrupt the system when it is functioning well. Security updates are not sufficient. Features are removed, the operating system is bloated with unwanted additions, privacy is compromised, and system crashes occur frequently. I wish a viable competitor would emerge. I do not want to switch to Linux and sift through countless distributions. I also do not want to use the operating system typically recommended for novice users. I have enough technical knowledge to understand the challenges involved because my work relies on a specific combination of new and legacy programs. I likely am one of the few people in the world using this unique setup due to my distinct skills and work process. Story 46. Smart televisions seem great at first, but after a couple of years, they become outdated due to the latest operating system updates, and it takes a long time to find the streaming app you want. I still have an old plasma television that is simply a plug-in and input selection, and I love it for that. I want to upgrade to an OLED television, but I know I will need to get a smart TV. Story 47. In the 1650s, the rules of honorable harvest were completely ignored by colonists who sought to take the land for everything it was worth. This approach was convenient for a few hundred years, but now the forests are suffering, the soil is depleted, and new forests do not grow with the same biodiversity as before. I feel separated from the land by a culture that believes it can be owned and sold. Modern life is so out of balance with nature that complex civilization may soon become unsustainable and could collapse. The culture of irresponsible dominion over nature may have been convenient, but it is now making life harder for most living beings. Story 48. Push-button start on cars is a solution to a problem that no one was asking for, making car theft significantly easier. Story 49. Arguably, cars have completely redesigned how we build cities in the 1960s and 1970s. This change is arguably for the worse unless you are an automobile manufacturer. It is also a significant contributor to global emissions. Story 50. I visited Paris recently. I downloaded the application to travel on the metro. Tapping my phone allowed me to enter the stations, but wouldn't let me exit despite having valid activated trips displayed. I had to squeeze through the barriers behind other travelers. After that, I returned to using cardboard tickets. Story 51. Voice recognition software is utilized by online merchants and service providers. If you encounter an uncommon issue, you may sometimes be unable to contact the store by phone. Story 52. A few years ago on our trains, we would buy a 10-trip ticket or a monthly pass. The conductor would walk the length of the train, clipping tickets and selling single-trip tickets. They introduced electronic ticketing. Now we need to 1. Load our cards with money, scan the card before boarding the train, allow the conductor to check the cards on the train, which happens on most trains. The equipment is slower than the old ticket clippers. Scan the card when exiting the train while in a queue of people. The old paper system was faster and easier. To their credit, though, we finally have an integrated ticketing system, and buses are much easier now. Story 53. Artificial intelligence in customer service and chatbots. Whenever I need to contact customer service and connect with an automated chatbot, it fails to understand the issue, and the problem remains unresolved. Story 54. Shops and restaurants used to have discount cards. Now they have apps. You can pay through your phone's NFC chip. Let me just open the app, wait for it to load, hope there is a stable connection, and wait for it to confirm the payment. Alternatively, I can simply take out my card and be finished in 2 seconds. Story 55. Those mobile keys at hotels which allow your phone to open the room door never seem to work for me. but I keep trying. Story 56. I am so frustrated with applications and people calling or texting, expecting immediate responses. It was much easier when you would receive a letter, stick it on the fridge, and get to it when you could. If you missed a call because you were not home or did not answer, it was acceptable to try again later. Story 57. Cars. 90% of all jobs nowadays require you to have a driver's license, despite the job having nothing to do with driving. If you cannot obtain a license due to physical or psychological reasons, you are out of luck. Story 58. The decline of the internet over the past decade is quite disappointing. Additionally, the safety features in cars that cause them to beep continuously can be frustrating. Fortunately, my 2016 model is from an era with many good features, but without unnecessary interventions. When I need to buy a newer car, I plan to find an auto electrician willing to disable the features that detract from the driving experience. Story 59. QR codes were supposed to make life easier, but they have made it worse. Every time I scan a QR code, I feel like I am taking a cybersecurity risk. Story 60. Artificial intelligence information research has transformed the way we access data. Instead of searching for specific web pages or papers that are definitively accurate, it is now much easier and more time-effective to obtain large amounts of information quickly through AI platforms. Many people are aware that the responses generated may contain inaccuracies, but they prefer this method as the traditional alternatives take significantly longer. Story 61. When you visit a website that does not function on your phone because there is an app available that you have already installed, clicking on the pop-up that says, "Open this in the app," redirects you to the App Store for the app you already possess. Story 62. My bank uses automated callers that sound exactly like scam calls. Not only do they profit significantly from the interest on my mortgage, but they also earn money by investing the funds they are holding for me. Please have a human call me. I would appreciate that small gesture of respect. Story 63. Every appliance in my home is worse than the ones before it. I used to be able to cook even when my fingertips weren't perfectly clean and dry. Now I gently touch the stovetop and pray that it will register my touch. Speaking of glass stovetops, I used to be able to adjust the heat or turn it off instantly with a flick of my wrist. Now it takes 6 to 7 seconds as I watch it count down from 9 to 1 to off. I used to be able to spin something dry in the washing machine. Now that I have a smart machine, everything must be rinsed first. I can set the temperature for a wash, but it takes 4 to 5 button presses to override the confusing programs and it won't remember any settings. It seems to be more intelligent than the user. It was my choice to buy a washer-dryer combo, and I knew that it uses steam to dry the clothes, a modern marvel that uses extra water to dry items. But now my clothes can only be as dry as the smart machine decides. Still damp? Too bad. You can't throw them back in. Melted and shrunk? Too bad. The extra 45 minutes of drying time were out of your hands. I used to have an iron made of metal that held heat and transferred it to the clothes, making them well ironed. Now I have a lightweight aluminum iron that goes cold in the middle of the process, leaving my clothes forever wrinkled. I used to have a television that would display whatever I connected to it. Now I have a hidden camera in my sitting room that requires constant online connectivity for updates. It's very smart because it interrupts the display once I connect something and names it unknown or PC, whatever it may be. Now I must remember that HDMI 2, labeled PC, is the stereo and HDMI 3, labeled TV, is my computer. It interrupts the display every time to go through this again. Story 64. Every now and then, you see one of those new idea commercials on a low visibility channel. The last terrible idea I recall was a battery-powered grill scrubber robot. It scrubs the grill for you. You just have to insert it, remove it, recharge it, clean the scrubbers, and find a place to store it without leaving grease everywhere while you're cooking. Just take a minute with a wire brush, and you save yourself so much time. Story 65. I want buttons in cars. Forget touchscreens. I don't want to take my eyes off the road for 10 seconds searching for the volume button for the radio. Story 66. Touch buttons in a car. I want to be able to reach out blindly while driving to adjust the heat without navigating through a menu on a screen. Story 67. Artificial intelligence has become prominent, especially with Google searches. I do not trust the summaries provided at the top of my search results. Story 68. Apps for everything. I bought a new refrigerator, and it comes with a mobile application. There is nothing I can do on the app that I can't do on the control panel of the refrigerator. I've never been on holiday and thought it might be a good time to defrost the refrigerator. Story 69. Oh, and how could I forget the online job application process where you upload your resume, and then it asks you to enter your entire job history that you just uploaded from your resume. Story 70. Productivity trackers create a sense of constant surveillance that can negatively impact performance. It feels similar to having a police officer watching you. Even if you are not doing anything wrong, you still feel anxious about potential consequences. Furthermore, these trackers can dehumanize individuals, treating them more like machines than people. Simple actions like taking a break can lead to questioning about your whereabouts. It is essential to remember that humans are not machines. We should prioritize quality over quantity in our efforts. Story 71. Current versions of large language models are trained on other people's work, often copyrighted and always without compensation. Their inaccuracies pose a threat to safety, security, and information fidelity. If I cannot generate a list of data points I input directly without adding irrelevant information, how much more concerning is it when dealing with electronic health records, management decisions, or determining personnel actions in a government agency? Story 72. Using AI for customer service, it refuses to answer the question I have and does not solve the problem I am experiencing. Story 73. All of this encourages rampant consumerism, leading to a never-ending cycle focused on short-term quarterly results. This is why companies can report record profits while the working class continues to struggle. Story 74. Smartphones. I am typing this on my laptop while daily carrying a flip phone. It helps me connect with the world around me. Story 75. I went to urgent care today. I was the only patient there, and they could have just checked my identification and insurance and sent me straight to a doctor. But instead, I had to scan a code to register, even for a walk-in appointment. Story 76. Our city got a light rail train system to replace the bus network in Ottawa. My routine of getting on a bus, falling half asleep, and getting off in front of my building changed significantly. Now, I had to get on the bus, get off the bus, and get on the light rail train when it was operational. After that, I would either walk across the bridge in -40-degree weather to my building or wait for another bus on the platform. This experience was a major factor in my decision to switch jobs. Story 77. My car key has developed a fault. The cost of replacing a standard ignition car key is £30. The cost of replacing a keyless ignition key, where you just press a button, is £300. I would rather just use a manual ignition key. Thanks. Story 78. I thought the future would include moon cities and jetpacks. Instead, we have password renewals and monthly subscriptions to technology. Story 79. Most of it, let's be real for a minute, the majority of modern convenience isn't really convenient at all. What it is cheap, all part of the race to the bottom that puts the most amount of money in the pockets of a small demographic. Story 80. Everyone has a car and roads are everywhere. Sidewalks are not as common because everyone has a car. Who needs a taxi or a bus when you can call a rideshare service? I have epilepsy. Until this past year, I was not cleared to learn to drive, and it is essentially illegal for me to drive without clearance in my state. Even my own parents did not fully understand why this was an issue until they had to drive me everywhere in college. Story 81. I dislike having to explain my issue to the receptionist when I try to schedule a doctor appointment, so they can determine if I will have an in-person or phone appointment. Story 82. Cashless tolls. Can I just pay with cash? I don't want an electronic toll collection device. I don't want to receive a bill in the mail and then visit a website to pay with my credit card. Story 83. I love crafts such as sewing, felting, and embroidery. All crafting sites are flooded with scam artificial intelligence patterns that produce items that look nothing like the pictures. Trying to find legitimate patterns is a nightmare. As an artist, I feel my entire 20-year career is about to be threatened. Hopefully not immediately, but inevitably. Story 84. Phone applications instead of websites. Subscription prompts appear as pop-up blocks on every shopping website. You need to provide an email address or create a new account on websites before you can access them. Story 85. Online grocery shopping sounds like it would make life easier, but often they substitute items or forget things entirely, leading to hours spent resolving issues. It can be much more work than simply walking to the store yourself. Story 86. I remember a time when no one had cell phones, and I understand how incredibly useful they are. That being said, I believe the constant ability to be connected to the vast amount of information the internet provides, combined with the expectation of always being reachable, is ruining life as we know it. The world functioned well when you were mostly reachable only at your workplace and had limited availability outside of that. Now, my customers, friends, acquaintances, and even people I don't really know can reach me anytime they want through my cell phone or social media. Story 87. I remember when I could turn on a television, and it would start working in a matter of seconds. Nowadays, televisions take a long time to start. Story 88. QR code menus. Bonus points if they don't provide easily accessible wireless internet or any internet access at all. It makes me frustrated, especially when I'm with those who are not tech-savvy. Story 89. The quality expected from a slideshow is significantly higher than in the days of slide projectors, but the amount of learning and information conveyed remains the same. Story 90. Automated answering machines are frustrating. I dislike them greatly. Additionally, I prefer written explanations that I can read in 15 seconds rather than having to watch a 5-minute video for the same information. Story 91. Every supermarket has an app. Some require you to select discounts, while others provide them automatically. Look, there's a discount game and more offers, but you can't have them all. Choose wisely. You have points, but you can't use them to pay part of your cost here. You can add another store. Yes, those points have to be converted into voucher codes first. Discounts are only valid at your home store. Our registers cannot scan the codes. You will need to enter them each time you visit. Based on your shopping history, we can see you have dietary restrictions, so here are all the discounts you could ever wish for related to that. Story 92. Smart devices that need an application or a cloud service to function can be problematic. I can be right next to my lamp, car, or door and cannot get them to operate if the Wi-Fi is down or the server on the other side of the world is undergoing maintenance. With my car, the remote start takes almost a minute to execute the command. Story 93. Streaming services with commercials. Didn't we switch to paying for streaming to avoid so many commercials? Or am I imagining things? Story 94. I know it's for my own safety, but I hate that almost every account I have requires two-factor authentication to log in. Banks and other sensitive services? Sure, I understand that. But why do I need to enter a code texted to me to log into Cameo when I just provided my username and long password? Story 95. I have to download apps to communicate with my job, like Microsoft Teams and WhatsApp. I barely use social media apps in my personal life. Now you expect me to open a message during my time off because of last-minute schedule changes? Please buy me a work phone at least. Story 96. Screens in cars. I want tactile buttons. I don't want to navigate through numerous menus just to adjust the temperature. Story 97. QR codes for anything. Just order your food by scanning this code. How about you mind your own business? Story 98. What started as a few places having applications and memberships for discounts has turned into the necessity of having an application to get normal prices at every gas station and grocery store. I understand it's a tool for brand loyalty, but it is quite annoying. Story 99. Voice recognition software like PowerScribe instead of human transcriptionists slowed down my dictations significantly. This was implemented mainly as a corporate cost-saving measure because human transcriptionists are expensive, and it has effectively shifted the real work of generating and correcting typed reports onto the person dictating the report. Story 100. The internet can sometimes be more convenient than beneficial to the world. Libraries could have played a larger role in our lives, leading to improvements. Granting everyone the ability to escape into their own personal realities is a concerning development. Story 101. Not sure if someone has already mentioned it, but multi-factor authentication is frustrating. I dislike it, especially when my session ends after 3 or 4 hours. Having to sign in again to everything at work is annoying. Story 102. QR codes and applications for everything turn a 2-minute action into a 15-minute registration and download. The same goes for QR codes used just to read a menu. Story 103. LEDs. I work in the film industry. LEDs, as great as they are, have added so much to lighting. It used to be that a lamp was made up of a glass tube housing and 3 wires. If you ran it over with a truck, you could replace the glass and keep going. Now, incandescent lights are getting harder to find, and LEDs are essentially lights with computers in them. Everything needs to be programmed. If it gets too hot or too cold, it flickers. When they start burning out, you have to replace the whole unit and spend thousands. They are also heavy and can be a real pain. However, they do look cool. Story 104. My daughter's school has gone cashless. To get school lunch, you need to use an app that is poorly designed and has a high credit card convenience fee. She is in 1st grade. Story 105. Online job applications feel like I am there in person with a resume ready for an interview. Why do I have to visit the website and re-enter all the jobs I have worked, along with their addresses, phone numbers, and references separately just to return later? Story 106. Autocorrect. Half the time, it feels like it is working against me, turning perfectly normal words into absolute nonsense. Story 107. Everything is digital to take up less space than a physical copy. Companies argue that it's a subscription and it doesn't have to remain available just because you purchased it. Story 108. The QR code menu at restaurants is frustrating. If restaurants are going to charge me unreasonable tips, they should at least show some consideration. Story 109. Smartphones are making everyone less attentive. I used to be irritated by people a couple of times a day. Now it's constant when I go out in public. If someone wants to check their phone, they should step to the side to do it. Don't stop in the middle of the entrance to a store and block others trying to get through. Story 110. Convenience fees are usually applied when a task is less convenient than the traditional method. This practice feels like a deceptive scam. Story 111. It doesn't necessarily make it harder, but I dislike how everyone is trying to force artificial intelligence on me. Google's artificial intelligence overview is always incorrect, and Microsoft keeps trying to make me use Copilot. I deleted Snapchat because I found the artificial intelligence there so irritating. If I want to use artificial intelligence, I will, but please stop imposing it on everything. Story 112. Social media has made it much easier to stay in contact with friends in other cities. However, it may make hanging out with local friends more challenging. People get enough social interaction online that they lack the incentive to leave the house. Story 113. Having a cell phone makes me think about the time when people had to call your landline to reach you. Imagine your boss not being able to text you. Sounds like bliss. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.